Breaking news here. U.S. District Judge John McConnell just minutes ago issued an order directing the Trump administration to immediately obey a previous restraining order halting the funding freeze at the National Institutes of Health and two other Biden-era laws. This is back on Friday. 22 state attorneys general, all Democrats, had accused the administration of not obeying Judge McConnell's order to unfreeze federal spending for grants and loans. And the White House OMB said that the order did not apply to specific federal programs. So McConnell says, yes, it does. His 5-page order says, and I quote, "The broad, categorical, and sweeping freeze of federal funds is, as this court found, likely unconstitutional and has caused and continues to cause irreparable harm to a vast portion of this country. Therefore, McConnell has ordered the Office of Management and Budget, this is Russell Vought's agency now, the architect of Project 2025, to, quote, take every step necessary, end quote, to restore funding for the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Improvement and Jobs Act, the National Institutes of Health, and other agencies covered by the restraining order." In other words, Congress said you're going to spend this money. Damn it, you're going to spend this money. Now we find out. Is Trump going to openly defy a federal court? Now, my guess is he'll appeal it. And the appeals court, you know, if he does it with a right-wing appeals court, and I don't know how much discretion he has in picking jurisdictions at this point, but if he appeals it, he may, you know, get that order stayed or maybe not. But we're into the last part of the third quarter, the first part of the fourth quarter here. To use a metaphor from yesterday. Wasn't that a bizarre football game? I'm reading all over the internet that Mahomes, you know, the quarterback for the Chiefs, that he was photographed with Trump. His family is with Trump. His wife has been tweeting how wonderful Trump is, and that this is the Trump curse, that if Trump likes you, you're screwed. So who knows? But I digress. Anyhow, we'll see where this goes. Meanwhile, David Jolly, the former Republican congressman from Florida, was on MSNBC over the weekend, and he says the biggest problem coming is that the government funding cliff is coming. The Republicans are going, the Democrats are talking about, and I think they're quite serious about this, about just standing back and letting Republicans deal with the budget. On March 14th, I believe, double check, but my recollection is it's March 14th. On that day, the federal government runs out of money or begins the process of running out of money because the money for this fiscal year has not been appropriated. And so we're running off leftover money from last fiscal year. The fiscal year begins in September. And, it begins in October 1st. And the previous fiscal year ends at the end of September. And so if there's not enough money to fund the government, it starts shutting down functions. Well, you know, some of that money is being saved by Elon Musk shutting down functions anyway. And we know that the Republicans in the Senate are planning on another multi-trillion-dollar tax break for the billionaires who own them. And that the Republicans in the House want to do that. They want to have another billion-dollar tax break or trillion-dollar tax break for the billionaires who own them. But there are conflicting currents, shall we say, within the House GOP. Now the Senate, the Republicans in the Senate, you know, they've got a three vote majority. In the House, including, you know, the vice president. In the House, they technically have a three vote majority. It's more like a 1 or 2 vote majority, given that there's these 3, you know, seats that are up for special elections here. So whether they're going to be able to even put this thing together without Democratic help is a huge question. And in fact, the best bets are they won't. So David Jolly says they don't even know how to solve this problem. He says the Republican Congress has collapsed. He calls them listless and meaningless. He said the immediate ability to rush to the fire is the Congress, and they've just laid down. And I think he's right, and in part, this is because the right-wing billionaires who fund them, particularly the fossil fuel billionaires, they don't believe in the federal government. They don't like the federal government. They don't want the federal government to be like it is. They're all down with David Koch's 1980 platform that called for basically every function of the federal government except police and military and the judges to be shut down. Why should billionaires have to pay for stuff that billionaires don't use? Billionaires don't use our public roads. They don't use they don't use our parks. They've got their, they've got their super yachts and their mansions and their Swiss chalets and their private jets. They don't use our airports. They don't use our, arguably they use our air traffic system, but, they don't care if it collapses for commercial flights. And I suppose they can always fly VFR and not even have to bother with air traffic control, at least on a nice day. Or if they're going to ignore the rules, just punch through some clouds, at 400 miles an hour. So this is going to get real interesting, real fast. The next 2 months, I think, are going to determine an awful lot about what kind of government, what form of government we're going to end up with, whether Trump is going to be successful in turning us into Russia, cracking down on the press, cracking down on dissent, or whether he's going to have to back down. And it's largely going to depend on what Republicans in the House and Senate do, which is why it's so important that if you live in a red state, that you call your Republican members of the House and Senate and let them know what you're thinking. And don't do it like, hey, I'm a liberal and I'm pissed off. Do it like, this isn't conservative. This isn't what Barry Goldwater would have done. This isn't even what Richard Nixon would have done. This is destroying the American government. Why aren't you doing something about this? Senator Thune or Senator Tillis or Senator, fill in the blanks, right, depending on where you live. Meanwhile, John Quealy, the publisher of Common Dreams, wrote a great piece that's over on commondreams.org right now. It's titled "The More Sinister Reason Behind Musk's Attack on the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau," the consumer agency. Russell Vought, who is, his new head of OMB, the architect of Project 2025, just ordered the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau to shut down their operations. Now, the only thing that the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau does is protect consumers. They have recovered over $20 billion that has been stolen from people like you and me by giant banks and financial institutions. All of it through fraudulent practices, hitting you with fines and penalties that you really don't have to pay, running sneaky promotions that are filled with lies. I mean, this is the kind of stuff the CFPB does, is they stop those kind of things from happening. And they then reclaim your money and give it back to you. Now, why would Russell Vought and Donald Trump want to shut that down? And Elon Musk, for that matter. Could it be that Elon Musk just cut a deal with Visa and wants to start processing payments through X? He wants to basically turn X into something like Venmo, maybe? And he doesn't want the CFPB looking over his shoulder? Is that what's going on? Or is it that the big banks have come to Russell Vought and to Donald Trump and their friends and said, hey, we'll give you millions more in campaign contributions if you just get these damn regulators off our back so we can go back to screwing our customers? I can't think of any other reason than those two. Can you? The CFPB, by the way, is not funded by Congress. It's funded by the Fed. And Vought and Trump ordered the Fed to zero out next year's appropriation. In other words, shut the damn thing down. And again, the reason why it's funded by the Fed rather than Congress is to prevent political interference, which is exactly what's going on right now. Elizabeth Warren came out and she said, Russell Vought is giving big banks and giant corporations the green light to scam families. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has returned over $21 billion to families cheated by Wall Street. Republicans have failed to gut it in Congress and the courts. They will fail again. And then on Friday, Musk posted CFPB RIP on his Nazi-infested website, social media site. And on MSNBC, the executive director of the Groundwork Collective, Lindsay Owen, said Musk's motivations are likely more sinister and closer to home. She said, "We know that Elon Musk is interested in starting his own payment app. He's partnered with Visa to do that. And so he has a real interest in ensuring that the CFPB isn't blocking an effort like that." And according to David Dayen, quote, "By stalling designation of non-depository institutions, Bessent," this is the Treasury Secretary, "ensures that X will not be designated for CFPB supervision, at least in the near term. But the insertive directive specifically bars designation of non-banks." Well, it's a little technical, but basically what it says is that Elon Musk can't be regulated by the CFPB, that they're going to have to figure out some other way to do it. At least this is their plan. This is what they're trying to do. Again, all the Consumer Protection Bureau does is protect consumers. It doesn't work on behalf of billionaires. It doesn't work on behalf of banks. It works on behalf of you, of people like you and me who have our money with our, with banks and credit unions and investment houses. That's all it does. Why do they want to get rid of it? What say you?